There is a truth most people do not want to face. If others do not feel clarity, strength, and certainty in your voice, they will not trust you. They will not follow you. And they will not take action because of you. You can have great ideas, deep experience, and real value to offer. But if the way you think and the way you speak does not reflect that value, the world will never see your full potential. It will pass you by, while someone with less knowledge but clearer communication takes the lead. Most people still believe that communication is about sounding smooth or talking confidently. But real influence does not come from being smooth. It comes from clear thinking. It comes from calm authority. It comes from choosing strong, precise words. It comes from controlling your tone, your breathing, your pacing, and your timing, and knowing exactly when to speak and when to hold silence. Many people fall into the same exhausting cycle. They speak before their thoughts are ready. They over-explain because they were not clear the first time. They add more words because they fear being misunderstood. They talk long but never talk sharp. They talk a lot but never actually move anyone. They speak hoping to be heard instead of speaking with the clear intention to lead. Leaders operate differently. They think before they speak. They speak less but speak better. They choose their words like tools, sharp, intentional, and necessary. They carry a calm, steady voice that commands attention without demanding it. They let silence work for them, and people act, not because they feel pressured, but because they feel guided and respected. The difference between these two groups has nothing to do with natural talent or raw intelligence. The difference lies in 4 core skills: clarity in thinking, authority in tone, precision in language, and timing in delivery. When you master these 4, every conversation becomes an opportunity to lead. When you lack even one of them, your words immediately lose their power. What you are about to hear is not a motivational talk designed to make you feel good for an hour. This is real training, a sharpening of the mind, a refinement of your voice, a rebuilding of how you show up in the world. You will learn how to organize your thoughts, control your voice, choose powerful words, manage your emotional tone, structure your message, and speak in a way that makes people act. You will learn how to read the energy of any room so that your words always land at the moment they matter most. Before we begin, if you are listening on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. We release powerful audiobooks every week, the kind of content that sharpens your thinking, strengthens your voice, and builds the communicator the world actually listens to. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let us begin. Step into this journey with calm focus and a real willingness to elevate the way you think, the way you speak, and the way you move others. You do not need more volume. You do not need more words. You need clarity and strength. Let us begin. Chapter 1. Think clearly. Before you speak. Most people talk before they think, and that single habit quietly destroys their influence every single day. When your thoughts are scattered, your words become scattered. When your mind is foggy, your message becomes foggy. When your ideas are only half-formed, your impact becomes half-felt. This chapter begins with a truth most people spend their whole lives avoiding. You cannot speak clearly until you learn to think clearly. And clarity is the foundation of every professional communicator, every leader, and every influential voice you have ever truly admired. Most people believe communication starts the moment the mouth opens. But in reality, communication starts in the silence, before the first word leaves your lips. It starts in the space where you gather your thoughts, shape your intention, and decide what actually matters. It starts with inner clarity, long before the sound ever reaches the air. You have seen people who speak endlessly but say very little. They circle around their point, adding more words to fill the gaps left by unclear thinking. They talk faster because they feel unsure, They explain more because their message is weak, and somewhere in that spiral, they lose the room entirely. Here is the painful truth. A long message is not a strong message. A clear message is. Most people do not fail in communication because they lack intelligence. They fail because they are trying to organize their thoughts at the exact same moment they are expressing them. The human mind is simply not designed to think, filter, refine, and deliver all at once with any real precision. That is why people ramble. That is why they repeat themselves. That is why they sound far less confident than they actually are inside. Clarity is not a talent you are born with. Clarity is a discipline you build through consistent practice. If your mind feels like a cluttered desk covered with unrelated notes, scattered thoughts, and emotional noise, your words will reflect that chaos. But when your mental desk is clean, your priority becomes visible, your idea becomes sharp, and your delivery becomes purposeful and calm. Imagine being asked a difficult question during an important meeting. Most people panic inside and rush to answer, afraid that a pause will make them look unprepared. But rushing leads to over-talking, over-explaining, and under-delivering. The person who pauses, even briefly, gains power, not loses it, because the pause is exactly where clarity lives. The pause is where real leadership begins. Great communicators do not speak faster. They speak from a calmer, more organized mind. They take a breath, gather the core of their thought, and deliver the sentence that truly matters. And because that sentence is clean and intentional, the room listens with a completely different level of attention. Think of your ideas like water in a glass. When the water is stirred, it becomes cloudy and you cannot see through it. When you let it settle, it becomes perfectly clear. Your thoughts behave the same way. But clarity requires something many people genuinely fear: slowing down. Slowing down does not mean thinking less. It means thinking better. It means giving your mind the space it needs to separate the signal from the noise. One of the most powerful skills you can ever develop is the ability to filter your thoughts before they become words. Ask yourself what you are truly trying to say. Strip away the extra. Remove the emotional clutter. Find the core of the message. And then, only then, speak from that center. There is a remarkable shift that happens when you speak from clarity instead of pressure. Your voice steadies. Your delivery becomes intentional. Your ideas land with real weight. People lean in rather than tune out, because people in every workplace, in every conversation, in every room respond to clarity with respect and with trust. Here is a truth that experienced professionals eventually learn. If you cannot express your point in one clean, clear sentence, your mind has not finished thinking yet. That single sentence is the test of your own understanding. When you can name your idea with simplicity and precision, you have reached genuine understanding of your own thought. This is what separates leaders from people who simply talk a lot. But clarity is not only intellectual, it is also emotional. Emotional noise is one of the biggest barriers to clear thought. The fear of being judged, the fear of being wrong, the fear of sounding unprepared. These fears push people into over-talking and under-thinking. They rush through sentences, desperately hoping that speed will hide their insecurity. But insecurity does not hide behind speed. It grows louder when clarity grows weaker. The safest way to speak is always to think clearly first. When you know the core of what you are saying, you do not fear silence. You do not fear judgment. You do not fear being interrupted. You speak from grounded intention, not from panic. Ask yourself these 3 questions before you speak. What do I truly want to communicate? What is the simplest, clearest version of this idea? Am I speaking from clarity or from emotion? These questions act like a compass, that brings you back to direction and purpose every single time. Clarity sharpens your message. Clarity strengthens your presence. Clarity deepens your credibility, and clarity becomes your most recognizable professional signature. In the real world, people make judgments fast. They decide whether you are confident, capable, and trustworthy based almost entirely on how clearly you express your ideas. Clarity creates professionalism. Confusion destroys it. And the best part is this: clarity is always trainable. You can practice it every time you speak. You can refine it every time you think. You can strengthen it every time you choose intention over impulse. The more disciplined you become at thinking before speaking, the more influential you become, without even trying to be. Your words will land with precision. Your ideas will make sense. Your presence will feel stronger. Your confidence will become visible to everyone in the room, because clarity is not just a communication skill. Clarity is a personal identity. Clarity is a way of moving through the world with purpose. Clarity is the beginning of all real influence. Speak clearly, but first, think clearly. Chapter 2. Speak with calm authority. There is a certain type of voice that makes people stop and genuinely listen. It is not the loudest voice in the room. It is not the most energetic. It is not the most theatrical or the most charismatic. It is the calm voice, the steady voice, the voice of someone who leads without needing to push. Calm authority is one of the most powerful communication skills in the modern world. Not because it dominates, but because it stabilizes. Not because it intimidates, but because it reassures. Not because it demands attention, but because it naturally and consistently earns it. Most people believe authority comes from speaking louder, speaking faster, or speaking with more emotional intensity. But intensity without clarity only creates pressure, not confidence. And volume without intention only creates noise, not leadership. Here is what experienced professionals eventually discover. Authority is not volume. Authority is presence. And presence always begins with calm. You have heard people who talk so fast, they trip over their own sentences. Their pitch rises, their pace accelerates, and their confidence visibly drops as they speak. You can feel their anxiety even when their actual words are correct. The message might be perfectly fine, but the delivery makes it feel fragile. A shaky voice makes even a strong idea sound weak. A rushed voice makes even a clear idea sound confused. A tense voice makes even a good idea sound defensive and uncertain. But a calm voice, a centered voice, transforms everything it touches. The exact same message, delivered with calm authority, sounds grounded instead of desperate. It sounds credible instead of doubtful. It sounds trustworthy instead of anxious. Because calmness signals something that no amount of volume ever can: control. Calmness signals that you are not reacting, you are choosing. And people follow the person who chooses rather than the person who reacts. When your voice is calm, you speak from a place of steadiness rather than urgency. Your breathing naturally deepens. Your pacing slows just enough for people to comfortably follow. Your tone drops into a register that feels confident rather than strained. And your presence expands in the room without you forcing anything or trying to take up space. People do not follow the loudest voice in the room. People follow the most stable one. This is especially true in moments of real tension: presentations, job interviews, difficult conversations, high-stakes negotiations. When emotions start rising, most people speed up, tighten their throat, and begin over-explaining. They talk faster, as if they are trying to outrun discomfort. But speeding through discomfort only magnifies it and makes it visible to everyone watching. Calmness does the opposite. Calmness absorbs tension. Calmness slows the moment down. Calmness communicates to the entire room that the situation is manageable, because you are manageable, and that is real influence. Calm authority begins with your breath. Your breath is the foundation of your voice, your tone, your pacing, and your emotional stability in every high-pressure moment. When your breath is shallow, your voice becomes thin and shaky. When your breath is rushed, your words become rushed. When your breath is uncontrolled, your entire presence becomes uncontrolled. But when your breath is steady and deliberate, everything else follows. Your tone drops into a calm, grounded register. Your pace slows to a confident rhythm. Your thoughts settle long enough for clarity to form. And your presence expands in a way that feels intentional and genuinely strong. A calm voice sends one powerful message before you say a single word. I am in control of myself. And when people sense that, they trust you more instinctively and immediately. Think about the leaders you genuinely admire. In business, in media, in coaching, or in any field, they rarely rush. They rarely raise their voice unnecessarily. They rarely let their internal emotions leak into their delivery and distort their message. Instead, they speak at a steady pace, with a tone that carries real weight without using force. That tone is not accidental. That tone is trained. That tone is the result of daily discipline applied consistently over time. Calm authority is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending you feel nothing. It is about mastering your emotional response so it does not hijack your message. It is about acknowledging your internal reaction, the nervousness, the pressure, the excitement, without letting it change the quality of your delivery. Your voice is a direct window into your nervous system. When you calm your system, your voice reflects that calm. And when your voice reflects that calm, the people around you begin to feel calmer too, and people always trust the person who brings calm into a chaotic moment. There is profound influence in being the steadiest person in a tense room. A calm speaker gives listeners time to actually absorb meaning. A calm speaker lets words breathe. A calm speaker uses silence intentionally, not as a void to be feared, but as a framing tool that makes the message stronger. A calm speaker does not fear pauses, because pauses communicate confidence. The pause is not emptiness. The pause is emphasis. If you rush because you are afraid of silence, you give away your authority. But if you intentionally pause before a key point, you gain gravity. Your words settle into the room. Your presence deepens. Your influence expands without any extra effort. Calm authority is not passive. It is not emotionless or cold. It is intentional, focused, and deeply confident. It says, without actually saying it, I do not need force to be heard. I do not need speed to sound smart. I do not need volume to matter. Your calmness becomes your credibility. Your steadiness becomes your strength. And your presence becomes your most powerful form of influence. Speak calmly. Speak steadily. Speak from your center, not from your panic. This is how your voice becomes truly powerful. This is how your presence becomes impossible to ignore. Chapter 3. Use words that carry weight. Words are never neutral. Words either strengthen your message or weaken it. They either build your credibility or quietly dissolve it. They either move people forward or leave them standing exactly where they started. Most people speak with words that carry no real weight. They fill their sentences with softness and uncertainty. Maybe, sort of, kind of, I guess, basically, I think. They water down their ideas without ever realizing what they are doing. Their message loses its force before it even reaches the listener. And the worst part is that they have absolutely no idea it is happening. Here is the truth that every strong communicator eventually learns. Weak words create weak influence. Strong words create strong influence. If your words do not carry weight, your presence cannot carry authority. People judge your confidence by the language you choose. Your vocabulary becomes the window through which others measure your credibility. When your words are soft and hesitant, your presence feels soft. When your words are precise and direct, your presence feels powerful. Think about the difference between two ways of saying the same thing. The first person says, "I think this might be the right direction." The second person says, "Here is the direction we should take." Same core idea, completely different impact. A message wrapped in uncertainty rarely motivates anyone. A message grounded in clarity commands instant attention. You feel the difference immediately. Weak words signal that you are unsure of yourself. Strong words signal that you know exactly where you stand. Strong communicators do not rely on volume to sound confident. Their power comes entirely from word choice. They use clean, bold, decisive language. They eliminate clutter from every sentence. They speak with real intention. Weak communicators hide behind filler words and soft qualifiers. Strong communicators replace them with clarity and directness. Think of your words as tools. A dull tool makes messy, inefficient work. A sharp tool makes powerful, precise cuts. Your influence depends entirely on how sharp your verbal tools are. Weak words force you to work much harder just to get your basic point across. Strong words deliver the message instantly and cleanly. The effort is the same. The result is completely different. One of the biggest mistakes people make in communication is assuming that adding more words makes their idea clearer. It does not. Adding unnecessary words only adds noise that the listener has to sort through. People do not remember long, drawn-out explanations. They remember clean, sharp statements. Here is the truth. This is what matters. Let us decide. The next step is clear. These phrases carry weight because they remove doubt. They signal leadership. They show clarity. They show that you know where you are going. Most people weaken their message because they are genuinely afraid of sounding too direct. They are afraid of being judged. They are afraid of taking a clear position and being wrong. So they bury their message under layers of soft, apologetic language. And the more they soften, the more invisible they become in any room. But here is the real secret. Directness is not the same as rudeness. Directness is clarity. And clarity is one of the most generous things you can offer another person. People do not want you to ramble. People do not want you to soften everything down until the meaning disappears. People want to understand you clearly and quickly. Strong words make that possible every single time. There is also a deeper reason why strong words matter. Your language directly influences your identity. When you speak with uncertainty long enough, you begin thinking uncertain thoughts. When you habitually say, "I guess," you begin to second-guess yourself constantly. When you repeatedly say, "maybe," you genuinely become a maybe person in how you show up. Your words shape your behavior and your self-perception far more than you realize. But the reverse is equally true. When you speak with conviction, you begin to think with conviction. When your words are clear, your decisions become clearer. When your language becomes sharper, your confidence follows automatically. Your vocabulary is the thermostat of your personal power. Raise the language and you raise the identity. Strong communicators understand this at a deep level. They do not leave their words to chance or habit. They speak like every sentence matters, because it does. Your language affects how people work with you, how much they trust you, how readily they follow your lead, and how seriously they take your ideas. It shapes your presence in meetings, your credibility in negotiations, and your influence in every high-stakes moment. Words are not decoration. Words are leverage. Use them with that understanding, and your influence will grow in ways that effort alone never could have produced. Speak with words that carry weight. Speak with words that reflect who you are becoming. Speak with words that move people, not because they are loud, but because they are clear, direct, and purposeful. Chapter 4. Structure your message like a leader. Leadership is not just about what you say. Leadership is about the structure behind what you say. A clear structure turns ideas into direction. A weak structure turns ideas into noise. And every conversation becomes significantly easier for you and for your listener when your message has a strong enough backbone to stand on its own. Most people struggle in communication not because they lack intelligence or good ideas, but because they lack structure. They jump into a story without establishing the point first. They add detail before providing any context. They speak for several minutes before finally landing on the idea that should have come first. The message becomes blurry. Their confidence collapses right along with it, and the listener is left feeling confused and slightly exhausted. Here is the truth. If your message does not have clear structure, your influence will not have real strength. People do not follow scattered thoughts. People follow direction. A structured message is like a roadmap. It tells your audience exactly where you are going, why you are going there, and what they should pay attention to along the way. Without that roadmap, your listener is left guessing at every turn. Guessing creates confusion. Confusion kills trust. And when people do not understand your message clearly, they do not assume the message was complicated. They assume you are unprepared. When people sense unclear communication, they become hesitant, doubtful, and disengaged from the conversation. That is why leaders always communicate with structure, not sometimes, but always, in every context. A strong message has a clear anchor, a central point that holds everything else together. It has clarity at the opening, solid support in the middle, and clear direction at the end. It takes the listener on a guided and deliberate path instead of a wandering, disorganized journey. And most importantly, it makes people feel like they are in the capable hands of someone who genuinely knows what they are doing. Structure is not restrictive or formulaic. Structure is liberating. Structure sets your message completely free from confusion, unnecessary explanation, and the kind of back and forth that wastes everyone's time. Imagine walking into an important meeting without a structured message. You begin talking, you share ideas, you move back and forth between details. By the end, even you are not entirely sure what your core point was. Your listeners certainly have no idea either. Now imagine walking into that same meeting with complete clarity about your message. You know the central idea. You know why it matters to this specific audience. You know the one example that will support your point effectively. You know exactly how you will close and what happens next. The difference between these two scenarios is night and day. One version sounds scattered and uncertain. The other version sounds like leadership. Great communicators understand that structure builds confidence for both the listener and the speaker. When you know exactly where your message is going, your voice steadies. Your pacing becomes smooth and controlled. Your delivery becomes precise instead of reactive, and your presence becomes grounded and authoritative. People trust the person who demonstrates clear direction. People follow the person who communicates with purpose. Every strong message begins with a clear point delivered right at the start. Not a long story first, not a gradual build-up, not a collection of scattered observations, a clear, specific point. When you lead with your point, you immediately anchor your listener. They know what to focus on. They know what the conversation is about. They know where the message is headed. And because they are grounded from the very beginning, they are ready and willing to follow the journey you are about to take them on. Once your point is established, the next step is support. The context, the example, or the reasoning that validates and strengthens what you said. Support is what gives your message credibility. It is what transforms a simple statement into a compelling and convincing message. People do not just want to know what you believe, they want to understand why. But the key to strong support is restraint. Too many examples dilute the message. Too many details overwhelm the listener, and bury the point. A strong communicator gives just enough to clearly illuminate the idea, never so much that it drowns it. After the point and the support comes something most people forget entirely: the deliberate pause. The pause is what allows your message to settle into the minds of the people listening. The pause adds weight, seriousness, and intention to everything you just said. The pause signals clearly that what you said actually matters and deserves a moment of reflection. A message delivered without pauses feels rushed and forgettable. A message delivered with thoughtful pauses feels meaningful and memorable. Finally, strong communicators always close their message with clear direction. Direction tells the listener what should happen next. It transforms understanding into movement. It takes people from awareness to action. And it prevents your message from simply floating away into the air, unattached to any real outcome. When you tell people what the next step is, you are not being pushy or controlling. You are being clear. You are being responsible. You are being the person who turns conversation into progress. A message without direction leaves people lost and uncertain. A message with direction leaves people empowered and ready to move. This entire structure, point, support, pause, direction, sounds simple because it is simple. And simplicity is the backbone of all genuinely powerful communication. The best communicators in the world are not complex. They are disciplined. They know what to say. They know why they are saying it. They know how they will land the point. And they know what happens after the point lands. Structure is confidence. Structure is clarity. Structure is authority. Structure is leadership, made audible. Give your message a clear shape, and your presence will have a clear and lasting impact on every person in the room. Chapter 5. Speak to make people act. Understanding is not the same as action. Agreement is not the same as behavior. Nodding is not the same as commitment. And if your words do not move people, you are not influencing anyone. You are just talking. This is one of the most important and most overlooked truths in communication. People think that clarity is enough, but clarity without action is an unfinished message. You have seen this happen before. Someone presents a genuinely great idea. The entire room nods. Everyone agrees it sounds smart. Everyone says it is important. And then absolutely nothing happens. Ideas do not fail because they are bad. Ideas fail because they never turn into actual movement. That is the gap between a communicator and a true influencer. A communicator explains. An influencer activates. A communicator shares information. An influencer creates momentum. Your words should not only make people understand. Your words should make people move. Action is the heartbeat of real influence. If your words do not change what someone thinks, feels, or does, the message did not complete its purpose. Most people do not speak with the intention of creating action. They speak to fill the time. They speak to feel productive. They speak because speaking feels like doing something. But speaking without triggering action is just expensive noise. When you speak with the clear intention of creating movement, everything about your communication style changes. Your tone sharpens. Your structure tightens. Your sentences become cleaner and more precise. Your message becomes more focused, because you are no longer communicating for the sake of talking. You are communicating for the sake of impact. Action-driven communication begins with one critical shift. You must know exactly what you want people to do after hearing your message. Not generally understand something. Not think about it for a while. Not take it into consideration. Do something specific, clear, and doable. People will not act if the next step is vague. People will not act if the next step feels overwhelming. People will not act if the next step is buried somewhere inside paragraphs of explanation. People act when the next step is specific, clear, and feels completely possible right now. Think about every powerful leader whose communication you have admired. They never end a message by trailing off. They never leave you wondering what is supposed to happen next. Their communication always ends with clear direction. Direction is influence. Direction turns intention into momentum. Direction transforms a conversation into measurable progress. Here is a powerful truth. People want direction far more than they want information. Information informs, direction guides, and human beings instinctively follow clear guidance when it is presented with genuine confidence and calm authority. The clearer your direction, the more willing people are to follow you. Unclear communication creates hesitation and paralysis. Clear communication creates movement and momentum. Most people hesitate to act because the next step feels too large or too uncertain. The job of a great communicator is to shrink that step until it feels completely possible. When you reduce the size of the step, you eliminate the resistance. When you eliminate the resistance, you create motion. And once motion begins, momentum builds naturally and powerfully. Your role in every conversation is to be the voice that removes friction. When you speak, imagine placing a steady, reassuring hand on someone's shoulder and guiding them, gently but firmly, toward a clear and achievable result. Not forcing them, not pressuring them, guiding them. People do not want to be pushed, but they absolutely want to be led. To speak in a way that genuinely creates action, you must understand emotional energy. People act when they feel urgency, not stress. Urgency is very different from stress. Stress freezes people and shuts them down. Urgency wakes people up and gets them moving. Urgency is created through clarity, specific timing, and direct direction. When your message makes clear what matters, why it matters right now, and exactly what the next step is, you create momentum almost automatically. People do not need to figure out what to do. You have already done that part for them. Action-driven communication is not about being dramatic or forceful. It is about being decisive. It is about speaking with real purpose. It is about guiding people confidently toward results. You do not need to sound intense or urgent. You need to sound intentional. Your words should leave the listener feeling one clear thing: I know exactly what I need to do next. That clarity is influence. That confidence is leadership. That purposeful energy is what moves people from intention to action. Speak to be understood, but more importantly, speak to make people move. Chapter 6. Master your emotional tone. Your message is never just the words you choose to say. Your message is the emotion wrapped inside those words. People do not only hear your sentences, they hear your state of mind. And nothing reveals your emotional state faster or more accurately than your tone. Tone is the truth behind the words. Tone exposes whether you are confident or insecure, centered or overwhelmed, calm or on edge. Tone tells people whether they should trust you or quietly question everything you say. Tone is your emotional signature, broadcasting your internal state to everyone in the room, whether you want it to or not. Most people lose influence, not because they said the wrong thing, but because they said the right thing with the completely wrong tone. A defensive tone makes a smart message sound insecure. A rushed tone makes an important message sound sloppy and unprepared. A tense tone makes a perfectly reasonable idea sound hostile. Tone shapes perception before logic has any chance to speak. And this is a truth many communicators do not want to accept. You can say everything correctly and still completely fail if your tone gives you away. Your nervous system largely controls your tone. When you are stressed, your voice tightens and becomes thin. When you are anxious, your pitch rises. When you are angry, your rhythm becomes sharp and fast. When you feel insecure, your sentences trail off instead of landing with confidence. Your voice broadcasts your emotional state, whether you intend it to or not. This is precisely why staying emotionally grounded is not optional for anyone who wants to lead and influence effectively. You cannot deliver a stable, trustworthy message from an unstable emotional state. Your tone will always reveal what you are trying to hide. A calm mind produces a calm tone. A calm tone produces trust, and trust produces influence. This chain is real, it is reliable, and it works every time without exception. The goal is not to eliminate all emotion from your communication. Emotion makes communication human and connecting. The goal is to control your emotional response so that it serves your message rather than hijacking it. Emotion is powerful when it is directed with intention. It becomes destructive when it is simply unleashed without any filter or awareness. Think about someone whose presence you genuinely admire when they communicate. They do not rush when they speak. They do not sound reactive or rattled. Their tone stays grounded and steady, even under real pressure. Their emotional steadiness becomes their greatest advantage in every room they enter. And that steadiness is not something they were born with. It is practiced emotional discipline applied consistently over time. To master your tone, you must first become genuinely aware of where your tone comes from. Tone comes from your breathing, your physical tension, your pacing, and your internal thoughts. If your breath is shallow, your tone will be shaky. If your muscles are tight, your tone will be tight. If your thoughts are scattered, your tone will sound scattered. Your internal world becomes your external sound, every single time. The moment you feel your emotions beginning to rise, frustration, stress, irritation, fear, your tone starts to shift. Your job is not to suppress that feeling. Your job is to stabilize your response to it. Stability begins with self-awareness. You cannot control what you do not first notice. So the first step is simply recognizing the shift happening inside you. Noticing when your breath shortens. Noticing when your pitch begins to rise. Noticing when your pace becomes frantic and hurried. Once you notice the shift, the next step is grounding yourself deliberately. Grounding is a simple but powerful act. Lowering your breath, consciously slowing your pace, and reconnecting with your clear intention for the conversation. Grounding turns emotional turbulence into emotional clarity. Grounding returns your tone to its position of strength and authority. A slow, steady tone sounds more confident than a fast, energetic one. This surprises most people. Speed communicates anxiety. Stability communicates authority. And authority begins with tone, not with words. A calm tone makes even a difficult message easier for people to receive. A calm tone makes even a correction feel respectful rather than threatening. A calm tone makes even a disagreement feel productive rather than aggressive. In high-pressure moments, people instinctively look for emotional anchors. If your tone rises with the tension in the room, you become part of the problem. If your tone stays low and steady, you become part of the solution. A steady tone is leadership expressed in sound. Mastering your emotional tone also requires learning to separate the message from the emotions surrounding it. You can feel frustrated and still speak calmly. You can feel disappointed and still speak with clarity. You can feel challenged and still speak with control. The ability to separate your internal emotion from your external delivery is the hallmark of truly mature and effective communication. Your tone communicates something profound before any specific words are even processed. It says, I am confident, I am composed, I am not rattled, I am in control of myself. And the moment people feel that in your tone, they trust you at a much deeper level than any particular word or argument could ever produce. Tone is credibility made audible. Tone is presence made tangible. Tone is character expressed through sound. Master your emotional tone, and your communication transforms into something genuinely powerful. The world listens differently to someone who sounds centered, grounded, and in complete control of themselves. You can become that person. Train your tone with daily intention and consistent awareness. Chapter 7. Build trust with precision and honesty. Trust is the real currency of influence. Without trust, your words carry no weight. Without trust, your ideas fall flat before they even have a chance. Without trust, no amount of charisma, intelligence, or clever technique will move people. Trust is the foundation on which every message stands, and that trust is built or broken through two things: precision and honesty. You do not earn trust by sounding perfect or performing impressively. You earn trust by sounding real. People want clarity, not a polished performance. People want truth, not empty filler. People want precision, not noise that they have to sort through to find meaning. Here is the reality. People trust you when your words match your reality, not when you make big, impressive claims, not when you exaggerate for effect, not when you perform confidence you do not genuinely feel. They trust you when your language is precise, grounded, and consistent across every interaction. Precision is not cold or robotic. Precision is a form of respect. It tells your listener, I am not here to waste your time. It tells them, I know what I am saying. It tells them, you can rely on what comes out of my mouth. Honesty is the backbone of all real credibility. Honesty says, here is what I know. Honesty says, here is what I do not know. Honesty says, here is the truth, even when it is uncomfortable or inconvenient to share it. Honesty is not about brutal, tactless delivery. It is about transparent intention. People do not need you to be perfect. They need you to be genuinely real. They need to feel that you have no hidden agenda. They need to feel that what you say is actually what you mean. When someone feels safe with your words, they will trust your direction. They will trust your recommendations. They will trust your leadership. And that trust makes influence effortless rather than exhausting. Think carefully about the moments when someone lost your trust completely. It was probably not because they made a mistake. It was because they tried to hide the mistake. It was not because they did not know the answer. It was because they pretended they did. Lack of honesty breaks trust faster than any failure, any error, or any poor decision ever could. Now, think about when someone gained your trust almost immediately. They were probably direct and calm. They did not oversell. They did not sugarcoat the difficult parts. They simply told the truth in a clear, measured, respectful way. That is precision. That is integrity. That is the real language of leadership in action. Here is one principle that will immediately elevate your communication. Say only what you can fully stand behind. Do not promise what you cannot realistically deliver. Do not speak in absolute certainties when you genuinely feel uncertain. Do not inflate your message to sound more impressive than the reality supports. Precision is power. Exaggeration is weakness, disguised as confidence. And people can feel exaggeration the moment they hear it. One of the most trustworthy phrases available to any communicator is also one of the simplest. I do not know. Those 3 words sound small, but carry enormous credibility. They tell the listener, this person tells the truth when it is uncomfortable. This person will not pretend for appearance's sake, and because of that, I can fully trust everything else they say. Honesty does not weaken your influence. Honesty deepens it consistently and permanently. Precision also shows up powerfully in how specific you choose to be. Vague statements feel slippery and untrustworthy. Clear, specific statements feel solid and reliable. Specificity makes people feel safe because they know exactly what you mean and what to expect. Vagueness makes people feel uncertain and anxious because they are forced to fill in the gaps themselves. Think of your language like a contract. If the contract is vague and ambiguous, no one feels protected by it. If the contract is precise and clear, everyone feels secure. Your message should offer that same sense of security to every person listening to you. Clean, precise, honest communication is trusted communication. And trusted communication is the most powerful form of communication that exists. Trust builds slowly over many interactions, but it breaks instantly with a single moment of dishonesty or inconsistency. That is why precision and honesty must be consistent habits, not occasional gestures when you remember to use them. People learn to trust you based on patterns they observe over time, not on isolated moments. Be precise today and sloppy tomorrow, and people notice the inconsistency immediately. Be honest in one conversation and evasive in the next, and people sense it without even being able to articulate why. Trust requires consistency of language and consistency of character. Precision must become part of who you are. Honesty must become part of your voice. When you speak with precision and honesty consistently, people feel guided, anchored, and genuinely safe. And safety is the real foundation on which lasting influence is built. Build trust with your words. Build trust with your honesty. Build trust with your consistency, because trust is the gateway to everything, and without it, nothing you say will ever carry the weight it deserves to. Chapter 8. Use silence as a tool. Silence is one of the most powerful tools available in communication. Yet, it is the one that most people fear the most and use the least effectively. People rush to fill silence. They rush to explain. They rush to flood the space with more words, but the truth is simple and profound. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. Silence is the space where your words gain their real weight. Silence is the pause where your ideas sink deeper into the mind of the listener. Silence is the moment when your presence becomes undeniable. If you learn to use silence deliberately and strategically, you will speak with dramatically more impact while actually saying less. Most people completely misunderstand what silence means in communication. They think silence signals that something has gone wrong. They think it makes them look unprepared or slow. They think others will judge them negatively if they pause too long, so they speak quickly, fill every available second with sound, and talk right over their own most important messages. But here is what experienced communicators know. The person who controls the silence controls the room. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of meaning, full of intention, full of power. Silence reveals confidence, because only grounded, secure people can hold silence without reaching out in a panic to fill it. When you are not afraid of silence, people sense your strength immediately and instinctively. When you speak without any pauses, your message becomes a blur. It becomes harder to follow, harder to absorb, and harder to respect. Words delivered without space feel rushed, anxious, and ungrounded. But when you speak with deliberate, intentional space between your ideas, everything changes. Your words land with greater force. Your meaning becomes much clearer. Your presence becomes noticeably stronger. Your voice becomes more compelling and memorable. Silence is the amplifier of everything you say. It is the frame around the painting. It is the breath between musical notes that makes the melody come alive. Silence is not a gap in communication. It is an active part of communication. And when you use it intentionally, it transforms your speaking from mere sound into real impact. Silence is also an essential thinking tool that most people completely overlook. When you pause before responding to a difficult question or a tense moment, you protect yourself from reacting impulsively. You gain clarity. You gain composure. You gain full control of what you are about to say. Silence gives you the time to choose the right words instead of simply the fastest ones. Fast words almost always come from fear. Chosen words come from clarity. Silence is what creates the space between the two. Imagine someone asks you a challenging question in a meeting or during an important conversation. Most people immediately start talking, hoping that speed will somehow cover their uncertainty. But speed exposes uncertainty. It does not hide it. Speed betrays anxiety to everyone watching. Speed quietly steals authority from the person using it. Intentional silence, however, communicates something entirely different. It says, I am thinking carefully. I am not rushed. I am choosing my words deliberately because this conversation matters to me. Silence is also essential when delivering your most important points. If you never pause before a key message, the listener never knows which message is the key one. Everything sounds equal, and everything blends together into noise. But when you pause clearly before a critical point, the listener feels instinctively that something important is about to land. Their attention sharpens. Their mind prepares. And when you deliver the line after the silence, it lands with the full weight of the pause supporting it. A deliberate pause before a point creates anticipation. A deliberate pause after the point creates lasting impact. Silence is also one of the most effective tools available for emotional control in high-pressure situations. When someone raises the energy of a conversation with frustration or aggression, and you respond with calm silence, they suddenly feel the contrast between your composure and their reactivity. Silence shifts power immediately from the reactive person to the grounded one. Silence communicates, I am not entering your chaos. I choose the pace of this conversation. I will not be rushed or pulled into an emotional reaction. The person who can stay genuinely silent when others expect a reaction becomes the undeniable anchor of the room. Everyone else begins to orbit around their steadiness, and that is remarkable influence achieved without a single additional word. To use silence as a genuine tool, shift your mindset about what silence means. Stop seeing it as emptiness or failure. See it as emphasis. See it as control. See it as an intentional part of your message that makes everything else more powerful. Silence speaks. Silence shapes. Silence stabilizes. Use it deliberately. Use it strategically. And use it with confidence. You will discover that people begin listening more carefully to every word you choose to say after a meaningful silence. Silence is not the absence of communication. Silence is the amplifier of communication. Use it and transform the way the world hears you. Chapter 9. Read the room and adapt. Influence is not only about what you say. Influence is about whether you say it at the right moment, in the right way, matched to the right energy in the room. You can deliver the most perfectly crafted sentence in the world, but if the room is not ready for it, it will fall completely flat. Timing can elevate your message to extraordinary impact or destroy it entirely. Energy can lift your influence or silence it without warning. The ability to read the room is what separates genuinely good communicators from truly unforgettable ones. It is the difference between speaking to people and speaking with people. It is the difference between pushing your message onto a room and actually landing your message inside it. It is the difference between forcing influence through pressure and embodying influence through awareness and adaptability. Here is a truth that many people never truly learn. You cannot lead a room you cannot first feel. When you ignore the energy of the room, your message becomes disconnected from the people who need to receive it. When you misread the room, your message becomes inappropriate or poorly timed. When you try to overpower the room with your prepared content, regardless of what the room is actually feeling, your message becomes unwanted. But when you tune in to the real energy of the room, its pace, its emotional temperature, its level of openness or resistance, your message becomes aligned. And alignment is where influence lives. Every room has its own emotional climate. Some rooms feel tense and guarded. Some feel open and ready. Some feel impatient. Some feel bored or disengaged. Some feel skeptical or resistant. Most communicators do not pick up on these signals at all. They simply deliver their pre-planned message like a pre-recorded script playing back, regardless of the audience in front of them. But leadership requires responsiveness, not just routine. To read the room effectively, you must shift your primary question from "How do I sound?" to "What do they actually feel right now?" Their body language tells you, their eyes tell you, their silence tells you, their collective energy tells you. People communicate volumes with their physical presence long before they ever say a single word. When you walk into any room, pay attention before you start participating. Watch where people position themselves. Watch how open or closed their posture is. Watch whether they are genuinely engaged or quietly waiting for this to be over. These physical cues reveal more truth than any spoken sentence in the room. Reading the room is not mind reading or guesswork. It is disciplined awareness. It is emotional intelligence applied in real time. It is the learned ability to sense when to push forward and when to pull back, when to raise your energy and when to soften your approach. Some rooms need high energy and enthusiasm. Some rooms need a quieter, more careful approach. Some rooms want direct honesty. Some rooms need inspiration before they can receive information. Some rooms need your clarity far more than they need your charisma. You must speak to the energy that is actually in front of you, not to the energy you imagined or hoped would be there. This is where many communicators struggle most. They cling to their plan even when the moment is clearly calling for something different. But real influence does not come from sticking to a pre-written script, regardless of reality. Influence comes from responding to what is actually happening in front of you in this specific moment. When you feel the room losing attention, your message needs a shift, slower, sharper, clearer, or more direct. When you feel the room tighten with tension, the topic needs careful grounding before you add any intensity. When you feel the room light up with genuine excitement, ride that momentum rather than dampening it with unnecessary caution. When you feel the room sitting in uncertainty, your message needs more clarity and reassurance before it needs more content. The room will always show you what to do if you are paying close enough attention to see it. Great communicators do not fight the energy of the room. They flow with it. They adjust their tone, their pacing, their volume, or their direction to fit what the people in front of them actually need in that specific moment. Adaptation is not weakness or people-pleasing. Adaptation is mastery. Think of communication like surfing. You do not control the wave. You learn to feel and work with the energy that already exists. Push against the wave with all your force, and you crash immediately. Move intelligently with the wave, and you glide powerfully toward your destination. The same principle applies perfectly to influence. When you try to force your message onto a resistant room, the resistance grows stronger. When you approach a resistant room with genuine awareness, the resistance softens naturally and opens. People do not ultimately reject your message because it is wrong or bad. People reject messages because they do not feel understood by the person delivering them. Reading the room makes people feel genuinely seen. Adapting to the room makes people feel genuinely respected. When people feel respected and understood, they open up. When they open up, they listen. And when they truly listen, you can influence them in meaningful and lasting ways. Reading the room is a genuine superpower in communication, not because it makes you agreeable or without backbone, but because it makes you aligned with the moment, the energy, and the people. And influence always thrives in alignment. Speak with awareness. Speak with sensitivity. Speak with adaptability. Speak like someone who can feel the heartbeat of the room before they say the first word. When you can read a room, you can lead a room. And when you can lead a room, your influence becomes nearly unstoppable. Chapter 10. Repeat the fundamentals until mastery. Mastery is not built on advanced techniques or complex strategies. Mastery is built on the fundamentals, the basics done consistently, deliberately, and with genuine intention over a long period of time. The fundamentals create more lasting impact than any clever trick or sophisticated approach ever could. Great communicators do not constantly chase new communication techniques to add to their collection. They sharpen their essential skills until those skills become completely and effortlessly part of who they are. Here is a truth most people avoid because it requires patience. You do not rise to the level of your potential. You rise to the level of your discipline. The fundamentals of powerful communication are genuinely simple. Clear thinking before speaking, strong, precise words, calm, steady tone, intentional message structure, emotional control, and self-awareness, the ability to read and adapt to any room. None of these are flashy or dramatic. None of them impress people in isolation on a single occasion. But when these fundamentals are repeated consistently over time, they transform you into a communicator that people trust immediately and follow naturally. Most people want mastery without putting in the repetitions. They want confidence without daily practice. They want clarity without disciplined effort. They want real influence without consistent discipline. But influence is not something that happens by accident. Influence is a habit built through thousands of intentional repetitions performed even when no one is watching and even when immediate results are not visible. Think about the greatest athletes, performers, and leaders you have ever admired. They do not spend their practice time exclusively on the hardest, most complex things. They return to the simplest foundational elements again and again, until those elements become completely automatic and effortless. They understand deeply that fundamentals win games, build lasting careers, and create the kind of sustained greatness that stands up under real pressure. Communication operates by the same principle. Clarity becomes sharper when you practice it every single day. Your tone becomes steadier when you train your breathing regularly and consistently. Your word choice becomes stronger when you deliberately choose intentional language in every interaction. Your structure becomes natural and automatic when you use it consistently across every type of conversation. Your emotional control strengthens every time you consciously choose a thoughtful response over a reactive impulse. Mastery is repetition made visible. Most people abandon the fundamentals far too quickly. They practice something for a short time, notice a small improvement, and then immediately move on to something else and new. But mastery does not come from variety of techniques. Mastery comes from the depth you develop by returning to the same core skills again and again with increasing precision and intention. Repetition does not make communication robotic or mechanical. Repetition makes communication completely reliable. Reliable presence, reliable clarity, reliable authority in any situation and under any level of pressure. This reliability is what separates true leaders from everyone else in the room. Leaders are not exceptional by accident. Leaders are consistent because they treat the basics with genuine respect and daily attention. Every time you practice a fundamental skill, you strip away a layer of hesitation and self-doubt. You remove uncertainty from your delivery. You reinforce the internal stability that genuine influence requires. Repetition builds the quiet, steady type of confidence that others feel the moment you begin to speak. The type that says clearly, without arrogance, "I have done this enough times to know exactly who I am and what I am doing." Mastery is not dramatic or loud. Mastery is silent, steady, and almost invisible in the moment. You do not notice mastery accumulating as it happens. You notice mastery when you look back and realize how far you have traveled from where you started. Every expert was once a complete beginner who simply refused to quit the fundamentals when they felt slow or boring. The fundamentals feel small at first, like tiny shifts that do not seem to matter much day to day. But over months and years, those tiny shifts shape your voice, your presence, your influence, and ultimately, your entire professional identity. The basics create momentum. Momentum creates quiet, reliable confidence. Confidence creates presence, and presence creates influence that compounds over time. If you want to influence others consistently and powerfully, you must train consistently and patiently. Show up for the fundamentals, even when they feel routine and unexciting. Practice clarity, even when you already feel reasonably clear. Practice your tone even when you feel confident enough today. Practice emotional control, even when the moment feels manageable. Because the moment you stop practicing the basics, your influence quietly begins to decline, often without you noticing, until the gap has grown significant. The fundamentals are your anchor in every high-pressure, high-stakes situation you will ever face. No matter how chaotic the environment becomes, you can return to them immediately. No matter how stressful the moment feels, the basics steady you. No matter how high the stakes are, your fundamentals hold you in your most powerful position. Repeat the fundamentals until they become instinct. Repeat them until they become your natural automatic state. Repeat them until clarity, calm authority, and genuine influence flow from you effortlessly in every conversation, every meeting, and every moment that matters. Mastery is not something you chase from a distance. Mastery is something you embody through daily repetition. Do the fundamentals, repeat them, trust them, and watch them quietly transform every aspect of how you show up in the world. Conclusion: every journey of real transformation reaches a moment where the lessons settle, the clarity sharpens, and the message lands somewhere deeper inside you. This is that moment. You have walked through clarity of thought, calm authority, the power of precise words, effective message structure, action-driven communication, emotional tone mastery, the strategic use of silence, the skill of reading and adapting to any room, and the discipline of repeating the fundamentals until they become part of who you are. You have seen how each piece reshapes your communication. But more importantly, you have seen how each piece reshapes you as a person. Because at the heart of this entire audiobook, there is one central truth. When you change the way you speak, you change the way you live. The voice you bring into the world is not just about the mechanics of speech. It is a direct reflection of your inner world, the window through which people understand your mind, your intentions, your values, and your level of genuine confidence. You are not simply improving a communication skill, you are refining your identity. Your voice carries weight when your mind holds clarity. Your presence becomes powerful when your tone becomes calm. Your message becomes trustworthy when your words become precise. Your leadership becomes real and felt by others when your direction becomes clear and consistent. You have learned how to stay steady when others around you lose their balance, how to stay calm when emotions rise around you, how to pause when your instincts push you to rush forward, how to adapt to the real energy of any room, how to speak like someone who knows exactly who they are, in every situation, under every level of pressure. But mastery is never a final destination. Mastery is a continuation. Mastery is a lifestyle built on daily repetition of the essentials. Everything you have practiced in this audiobook grows stronger every time you consciously use it. Every real conversation becomes a chance to reinforce clarity. Every important meeting becomes an opportunity to lead with genuine presence. Every silence you choose becomes a canvas for meaningful impact. The fundamentals are your anchor. Return to them often. Let them steady you, sharpen you, and shape your voice into a tool of real and lasting influence. And remember this: your voice is a responsibility. Because people do not just hear your words, they feel the intention behind them. They sense your clarity or the lack of it. They sense your conviction or the absence of it. They sense your steadiness or your anxiety. When you speak with clarity, you give others clarity. When you speak with honesty, you give others safety. When you speak with strength, you give others the courage to move. When you speak with calm authority, you give others the direction they need. Your voice becomes a place people trust. Your presence becomes something people genuinely rely on. Your message becomes a catalyst for action, understanding, and real change. This is the kind of communicator the world remembers. This is the kind of communicator people choose to follow. This is the kind of communicator that creates lasting change in every room they enter. And now, you have everything you need to become that communicator. And that is where we close Speak with Authority. 10 powerful chapters on thinking clearly, speaking with calm strength, and influencing like the professional you were always meant to be. From clarity of thought to the strategic use of silence, from precise language to reading any room in real time, every chapter in this audiobook was designed to change not just how you speak, but how you show up in the world every single day. Now take one principle from today and apply it in your very next conversation. Before you speak, pause for 1 extra second. Choose one more intentional word. Hold one deliberate silence. Let your tone drop a register lower than feels natural. One small, consistent shift applied daily is the beginning of genuine mastery. If this audiobook brought you real value, if even one chapter shifted how you see your voice and your influence, hit the like button right now. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps this content reach thousands more people who need to hear exactly this. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, now is the time. We release powerful audiobooks every single week. Content that builds real skills, real confidence, and real influence in the people who are serious about becoming their best. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and join a growing community of people who are committed to speaking with clarity, leading with calm authority, and communicating in a way the world cannot ignore. Drop a comment below and tell us, which chapter changed your perspective most? Which skill are you practicing first this week? We read every single response. Until next time, think clearly, speak with strength, lead with calm authority, and never forget the most important truth in this entire audiobook. You do not need to be louder to be heard. You do not need to be perfect to earn respect. You just need to show up with clarity, intention, and the steady confidence of someone who knows exactly what they want to say and why it matters. Your voice is your power. Use it well.